Hi everyone, my name is Vincenzo Ciorbaro, and today I'm going to give you a talk about backup solutions and why backups are important. So without wasting too much time, let's begin. So first of all, why do we need to do backups? And you might say that, well, I've never usually had a hard drive really fail on me, or maybe you're running your database in the cloud, and in that case cloud providers say, okay, whatever storage you get from us, it's going to be backup, it's going to have RAID arrays, it's going to be fine, don't worry about it. And they even offer a paid solution for backup or file system snapshots, which, if you think about it, looks kind of okay. But there are other problems that you will encounter that don't really work with file system backups, and that is usually why doing database backups as a file system backup is not a very good idea. So never ever assume that your data is safe. If something can go wrong, it will find a way to make sure it goes wrong. There's going to be software bugs that corrupt your data. It could be in the database system. We've had this happen to mariadb.org in 2018. And also, it can happen that there is a bug in a hardware's firmware that completely messes up your data. It happens, not very frequently, but it does happen. This way you can easily lose data. However, the most common, I think, is when there's a bug in your application storing data. We've had this happen recently with a WordPress plugin, and without our backup, we would have lost all the blog posts on mariadb.org. The plugin, instead of deleting just the post it was responsible for, it deleted absolutely everything. So backups are important, and I hope this very small example has convinced you that you must do backups. So let's have a look at potential options. Now, the problem is that if you are to do just a file system backup, you have to take down the database server whilst the backup is running. And a large hard disk or SSD can take a long time to backup. And usually downtime for that long is not acceptable for any online business, or any business for that matter. So what do we do? Well, the high availability solution usually involves a cluster of at least 3 database servers. And whenever you put data from one server, all the other servers get it. So you're sure that in case one of your nodes goes down, you have the other 2 to fall back on. And so this offers complete redundancy, high availability. The downtime is going to be minimal in case something bad happens. However, this requires 3 different hardware platforms. It's going to be expensive, and it might not be really what you need, especially if you're starting off. So the other simpler solution is to do a replication setup where you have a master or a primary server that stores all the transactions. The application only talks to it. And in case something goes bad, you can switch to a replica, which has an applied set, the same set of transactions that went to the master get applied to the replica. And with this setup, the slave might be a little bit behind the master, but usually it shouldn't be that big of a difference. However, none of these 2 solutions save you in case your application has a bug and inserts deletes for too much data. So since these are good for certain use cases, but they're not really a backup solution, then the other backup tools that you have are periodic snapshots. So you can do periodic snapshots in two ways, either a logical form or a physical form. mariadb-dump, formerly known as MySQL-dump, does the first one. It's a logical backup tool, whilst mariadb-backup is a physical backup tool, each with its own pros and cons. So let's see what are the differences. Well, for a logical backup, you generate SQL statements to replicate the same insertions that you would have to do to get the data in a database. The advantage of this is that it's very portable. You can even move data from one system that is running, say, MariaDB, to a system that is running Postgres, with a couple of details here and there, but you can do it. The downside is that it's actually quite slow to import because you have to read all that text file, and it's going to take a long time to parse all the queries. Additionally, there's a longer time spent whilst you're doing the backup, and because it's slow to import, you're going to spend a lot of time restoring the backup, so downtime is going to be rather big. Now, the other disadvantage is that logical backups are usually much bigger than physical backups. You have a lot of overhead. All this insert statements, all the create table statements, all those strings that are used to represent each digit in a number, they slowly add up. So the other solution is a physical backup. Now, a physical backup copies raw files, which makes it much faster because all you're doing is you're copying bits from one place to another. You spend a minimal time in a lock tables state, so you can you don't have to risk your application being offline whilst the backup is running. Unfortunately, it's not portable across systems. If the systems are vastly different, then you might you will not be able to restore it. And this can even happen if just the server versions are different. If the storage format from one server changes to the other one, then you're out of luck. And because of all these details, it makes it a little bit harder to use. But to my opinion, with all these advantages compared to logical backups, I think mariadb-backup is the go-to tool for simple snapshotting. And we're going to go see how it's done. I'm very much a fan of practical examples, so let's hop on into the terminal and see how we're going to do a mariadb backup on a mariadb server. All right, so now we're at the terminal. So let's see what's going on here. I'm running mariadb 10.5.4, and this server is running a WordPress database. Now, the WordPress database is for a website. I'm going to show you right now. It's this one. So I'm going to showcase our examples with a live website. This is a simple WordPress with a couple of pages, and one of our pages is called a lesson in backing up. Now, the reason why we have this setup is I want to show you how to properly take a backup and properly restore one. There is another finer detail about WordPress websites. WordPress websites store data in two places. One of them is the database. The other one is the media library. I'm not going to cover the media library, but make sure that wherever you're storing your file uploads, that you back up that one as well. That's what you need to do to make sure the website is going to be backed up and restored properly in case something happens with the hard drive or the media library folder. But for now, we're just going to cover database backup and restoring. For backing up, we have, let's go back to the terminal, and we have this tool called mariadb-backup, which we have not installed yet. So we're going to install it. The package on Ubuntu-based distributions or Debian-based distributions, it's called mariadb-backup. We're going to install this one. And the first thing you need to be aware of is that the MariaDB backup version needs to match the server version. So MariaDB backup -v, it's built for MariaDB 10.5.4. Make sure that MariaDB version is the same. If we scroll up a bit, we're going to see we are running MariaDB 10.5.4. Now, this is set up. It's very, very easy to take up a backup, but we need a couple of extra steps first before we can start doing it. We need a user that can access the server. It needs specific privileges. If I were to run MariaDB backup now, let's say I want to take a backup here. First of all, it's going to complain about two things. It can't open the data directory, so we need to run it as a user that can open data directories. And the user that it's connecting as, it's missing the required reload and process privileges. So these are the two things we need to do. So first, let's create our user. So we're going to create user backup at localhost. So far, so good. And we're going to grant it reload and process on star.star to backup at localhost. The reason why I've chosen the localhost host name is because we don't want to allow outside parties access to our database, so only the local host can take backups. And now the second problem was that it could not open the data directory. Because we're taking physical backups, we need to load the data directory and copy files from it. To do this, we can just run as root or as MySQL user. The MySQL user is the one that usually has privileges on that folder. We're just going to run as root. So we are running MariaDB backup. We're telling it to backup. We're telling it to store our backups here. And we forgot to tell it which user to use, because by default it's using the same user as our current user. And because this one doesn't exist in the database, we end up being logged in as anonymous user. So we're just going to do user equals backup. And backup is taking place. What happens during backup? We store a couple of things. First of all, Maria Backup understands what InnoDB options we are running, and it's taking a backup in according to those options. It's copying InnoDB data files and the table files as well. All of the InnoDB tables, whilst they're being copied, can still be accessed by the application and it can still run transactions on them. Because InnoDB is a transactional storage engine, it stores these transactions in the redo log, which after backing up all the other tables like MySQL metadata tables, Maria Backup in the end copies the redo log. So the redo log will contain all the transactions that happened whilst the backup was running. And this redo log is important. All right. Once it's done, we have this folder. This one is not useful, so I'm just going to remove it. This one was from a previous run. That's fine. We don't need it. Our backup is in here. It's in website backups. So if we look inside website backups as root, we'll see all the files from the data directory. So far, so good. Now, let's make something break. Let's go back to our website. And what we're going to do is we're going to delete a couple of pages. Let's go to admin. I'm going to log in as my user. And I'm going to make the mistake of deleting all the pages in here, moving them to trash, and then making sure that I've deleted them permanently. And just for good measure, let's delete all posts as well. Right, let's moving those to trash, and let's make sure we delete permanently. All right, how does our website look now? It has nothing. All right, panic time. Well, we have backups, so no reason to panic. We just need to restore them. Let's go back to the terminal and restore our backups. So first things first, we need to stop the server to prevent any further changes. So we're going to stop mariadb. We're using systemd. This is the command to stop the server when running. We can check if it's stopped. You see that the status of this process is inactive. Good. At this moment in time, the website is offline. We can go back to the website and reload it. We can't establish a database connection. That's fine. We're going to be back up shortly. Let's go back to the terminal, and before we can restore a backup, we need to prepare it. Remember I told you that whilst the backup is running, the InnoDB redo log still accepts transactions, and we only copy it afterwards. Well, to make sure that nothing is lost, we need to prepare the backup. So we're going to do a simple step, which is called prepare, and we're going to tell it where this backup is, and it's going to be in website backups where we put it. We need to run as root because we have created the backup as root. Notice that we didn't need to specify a user for this one because this thing only runs locally. And notice that we have this message here that the target seems to not be prepared yet. This is exactly what we're doing. We are preparing this backup. If we are to run it again, we get a different error message that this seems to be already prepared. So now we are ready to restore the backup. We restore the backup by copying the files back to where they were initially, which is the data directory. We do this by telling mariadb-backup to copy back this particular file. Let's start. mariadb-backup will not do anything if the destination is not empty. Just in case there is stuff there that you don't want to lose, always make a copy of that. You can always move directories from the data directory if the server is stopped. So I'm going to move var-lib mysql to var-lib mysql back, just as a temporary precaution. And then I'm going to copy data back to the data directory. If we look here, we'll see that we have our data inside. Now, there is one thing to note. When we copied data back, we copied it as root. This will not work. The server cannot read files owned by root. It tries to read them as MySQL user. So we're just going to change the ownership, those files, to be the user MySQL and the group MySQL. And now we're going to restart our MariaDB server service, and let's see if our website is back online. Going back to our website, refreshing, our website is back online, and we have our pages there with it. All right, that was it. This is all of these steps can be put into a script, so you can easily run these on demand like this, no problem. Again, make sure to have the same MariaDB backup version as the server. Make sure to have your backup user set up. Make sure that you have read access to the data directory. Run MariaDB backup. Restore, which is the simple copy back command. But before restoring, prepare your backups with -- prepare. And that's all you need to do, and this will guarantee that you don't lose data ever again. All right. Thank you very much for paying attention. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like it. Comment if you have any more ideas, and please subscribe to the channel for more updates. We're sure to make more videos moving forward. Thank you.